Hello, I'm Ben. Welcome to the channel. So today we're going to talk about wisdom and how seeking wisdom out is something that we should be doing. And I'll start with the Bible verse around this from Ephesians 5:17. It says, "Do not be unwise, but understand that what the will of the Lord is." So in life, on this channel, we pursue wisdom, and in life you should pursue wisdom, because what that's going to do is give you the benefit of knowledge that came before you and hopefully evolve you as a thinker and a human being faster than the people before you evolved. So when you learn from other people's mistakes, or you learn from other people's guidance or teachings, it puts you in a higher plane of understanding at a possibly younger age. So that's why seeking wisdom out is a smart thing to do. It's up to each of us to determine how we'll walk through this life, and wisdom must be sought out and pursued. The person who walks in wisdom is very aware of his life, how he affects the world, and how the world affects him, but also how you see the world and how you respond to the world, right? He recognizes that every person faces three enemies in life: the world's system, the flesh, and the devil, and he seeks to know how God's plan and purpose, not only for his personal life, but for every situation involving other people around him, and how he impacts the other people around him. So you've all probably come across people in your life that seem extremely stressed out all the time, and no matter where they go or what they're doing, they have some story about how bad it was and how this thing or that thing affected their day and affected their mood. And it could be, excuse me, it could be the simplest thing, right? When people are operating on that level, typically everything that can get under their skin will get under their skin. And so sometimes, you'll vent, you'll do things that calm you down and get you through a situation, but there's a lot around that I think that self-observation, knowing what you're doing, kind of watching yourself feel and respond to things is important. Because if you do that, you become more aware of how you respond to the things around you and how you impact those that are responding to things around you as well. And don't get into the situation where you're complaining, because explaining and complaining are two things that we do too much of, that are just going to lessen our view of a situation and also lessen people's view of us in that situation. Let's talk about some more Bible verses about seeking wisdom. I have a list here. First 5 come from Proverbs, but then some come from other places throughout the Bible, several from Matthew and Luke, which would be most likely Jesus speaking in those situations. But let's roll through these verses and where it talks about wisdom. So the first one is Proverbs 1:7. It says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but the fools despise wisdom and instruction." I'll read that again. And this, of course, all is coming from the King James Version. It says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction." So here, the fear that it's talking about is actually reverence. So if you look up fear in your encyclopedias around the Bible or your dictionaries around the Bible, what it's talking about here is a holy fear. Okay, this was used often in the Hebrew language, and especially in the Old Testament. It's both in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. And what it's talking about, a holy fear, which amounts to awe or respect for the majesty and holiness of God. It's a godly reverence is what it's talking about here. Basically, it's saying that this fear is pure and clean, and it's something that's done out of respect and reverence for who it's talking about, which here is God, right? So you should have fear. And even in the Bible, it talks about that same fear that people have towards believers, because they are empowered by the one true God, right? So Proverbs 1:7 is, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction." The next verse is Proverbs 3:13. It says, "Happy is the man that findeth wisdom, and the man that getteth understanding." So that's Proverbs 3:13. Happy is the man that findeth wisdom, and the man that getteth understanding. Proverbs 4:7 is, "Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And with all thy getting, get understanding." Okay, that's Proverbs 4:7. Proverbs 8:11 through 12 says, "For wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things that may be desired are not to be compared to it." For wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things that may be desired are not to be compared to it. It's Proverbs 8:11 and 12. Proverbs 7:27 says, "He that hath knowledge spareth his words, And a man of understanding is of an excellent spirit. So that's Proverbs 17:27. Next is Ecclesiastes 7, 1 through 29 is what it says here, but this is just a short piece of it. It says, a good name is better than a precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. All right, so this is the entire Ecclesiastes chapter 7. So let me jump back to the point where it was just talking about the wisdom piece. It says, a good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. So, a good name is better than precious ointment. The day of death is better than the day of one's birth. Because at that point, your works are complete, right? So people at that point can see that you, how wise you were and how you evolved through life and what you left behind when you went. Next is Matthew 5:22. It says, but I say unto you, that whosoever is angry with his brother without cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whosoever say to his brother, Raka, shall be in danger of counsel. But whoever should say, thou fool, is in danger of hellfire. So that's Matthew 5:22. That's some wisdom about how you treat your brother or your fellow man. Matthew 13:11 says, he answered and said unto them, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. This is a response, I think it's Jesus' disciples saying that it's given to them to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to normal people, to other people, or non-believers, people that haven't heard the message, it is not given. So wisdom to some doesn't seem like wisdom to others because they lack the understanding to see it for what it is. Luke 21:15 says, for I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. That's Luke 21:15. Remember what it says about arguing with fools, though, is in that quote that we said, where if you argue with a fool, they will drag you down to their level and beat you with experience, right? So the point is to have the idea of who you should take your time to even speak things to, because some people cannot see the world beyond their nose, okay? Next is Romans 11:33. It says, oh, the depth of the riches, both of the wisdom and of the knowledge of God. How unsearchable are his judgments and his ways past finding out. Okay? Next is 1 Corinthians 2, verse 13. It says, which things also we speak, not in the words which man's wisdom teacheth, but which the Holy Ghost teacheth, comparing spiritual things with spiritual. Ephesians 1:17 says, that the God, our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of glory, may give unto you the spirit of wisdom and the revelation and the knowledge of him. So these are all verses about wisdom, just telling you about what the value of it is and why we should be seeking wisdom. Colossians 2:8 says, beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ. So be careful what you consider wisdom. Okay, it says, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, and all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing the grace in your hearts to the Lord. That's Colossians 3:16. James 1:5 says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given to him. So James 1:5 says, if you want wisdom, that you should ask for it. Be careful, though, because sometimes lessons are taught through experience, and asking for wisdom can put you through a lot of stuff that where you gain experience, but it's very difficult, okay? So James 1:5 says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given to him. And then the last verse on this list is 1 John 4:1. It says, beloved, believe not in every spirit, but try the spirits whether they are of God, because many false prophets are gone out into the world. So that's the thing about seeking wisdom. You want to make sure you're very aware of who it's coming from and what you should be seeking out in that situation. You don't want to be getting wisdom from a false teacher, because that's the opposite, right? It's taking an opposite direction. You have to be understanding of the fact that most of the stuff of the world is of the devil, which means it is deceitful. and it is there to deceive you. And in the Bible, over and over, it warns you about being deceived, just because when you start out on an understanding and it's a deception, that means that whole path is false. So everything you do along that path is going to do more damage and further damage because you're on a false path. So it's extremely important that you know where the wisdom is coming from, that you seek out. And there's a lot of good quotes out there and tons of great memes about that. What I would say is this: don't take opinions from anyone that you wouldn't seek advice from, and don't seek advice from anyone you wouldn't take opinions from. So what that means is, if you look at their body of work and how they're living, that should kind of let you know if there's any value to what they think or know, because of the situations that they find themselves in on how they do things. So hopefully this video is of use to you. If you like subject matter such as this, please like the video and please subscribe. Please share if this is relevant enough to somebody in your world that needs to see this. Please share that so they have it and can see these verses and can look into this themselves. Obviously, we'll continue to do stuff like this on this channel. The King James Version is where I get the verses from, if you want to look into those and read along, if you want to repeat this video and do that. So seek out wisdom, do it diligently, do it all day long. Watch videos such as this and content such as these to share that with other people as well. Please subscribe. I'm Ben. Be good.